Hey guys, Gate here with the Fei Lian raid guide. As usual, this is a mechanics based raid, but this time some DPS is required and there's no shatter mechanics. Still, a whole team of free to play can clear but probably not get on the leaderboard. So make sure to do yourself a favor and share this video with your group to educate them before you attempt this raid to save yourself from mauling. Let's jump right in. Fei Lian, similar to its world boss counterpart, likes to switch elements, and that's the main theme of the raid this time around. Since there are 4 main elements in the game, Fei Lian also has 4 phases that rotate in a set pattern every minute or so. Let's start with the pillar phase, the phase that the boss begins with when you first run in. Shortly after you aggro the boss will summon 4 pillars around the map and also mark 4 players for death with a curse under their feet, which can only be dispelled by destroying the pillars with 30 vault hits each. Note that the pillars cannot be targeted, so Brevi and Mimi don't work too well here, but Samir works wonders. When the pillars are up, the boss will also target random players with small AoE lightning strikes, so make sure to move around and stay away from others. After the pillars are dealt with, or not, the boss will fly into the air, nuke the field, and transition to the next phase. As long as you are outside of the circular stage, you should be safe from the nuke. For those healers with Pepega teammates, however, providing some shield or casting a Fiona discharge to block damage for them can prove beneficial here. After the pillar phase, Fei Lian will start summoning clones at the center of the map. All clones, when summoned, will take significantly reduced damage and apply a corresponding curse to all players, in which both can be dispelled by doing 120 hits to the boss. After the buffs are dispelled, the clone can then be defeated through regular damage methods. When the clone dies, the boss will take a large chunk of damage and lose a stack of damage reduction, which starts at 9 stacks. Otherwise, if 40 seconds have passed and the clone is still alive, it will auto-detonate and nuke all the players. Note that this nuke can be face tanked by traditional methods if your Pepega teammates cannot for some reason kill the clone in time. Make sure to provide some shield, alternate destiny, or Fiona discharges. First up is the flame clone, which will curse all players with burn damage. The clone will also summon expanding flame rings that can be jumped over. Fei Lian during this phase will be weak to frost as indicated by the weakness indicator, so make sure to hit the boss, not the clone, with a collective 120 frost hits, preferably from fast-hitting range weapons like Ling Han or even Hilda to quickly dispel the burn and the damage reduction on the clone, so the DPS players can finish it off. Healers during this phase should prioritize healing the team, so pay attention to everyone's health bars, and attached Brevi Met's healing aura should be sufficient enough to counteract the burn damage. Next up is the Vault clone, arguably the hardest phase of this raid, which will curse all players with a debuff that increases vault damage taken. Large AoE vault targeted lightning strikes and blanket lightning strikes in a line will randomly appear on the map. Getting hit by these with the debuff still active usually means certain death, so make sure to prioritize staying alive and stay far away from other teammates so you don't get stacked out. Fei Lian during this phase will be weak to physical, so make sure to hit the boss, not the clone, with 120 physical hits to quickly dispel the vault debuff. This task can be perfectly completed by Mark, a long-range, auto-tracking, super fast-hitting, shield-giving physical unit, but oh wait, he doesn't exist. So your best bet on global is the Asuka skill and hold attacks, melee Lyra punches from healers, or Shiro skills, and pray that the boss doesn't move and the lightning strikes don't land near the boss. It is highly advised that before this phase, the tank aggroes the boss away from the center and away from the clone so there's a little bit more room to avoid the lightning strikes for everyone involved. Once the vault curse is dispelled, however, everything should be easy going. Kill the clone and move on to the next phase. The Frost clone, on summon, will curse all players with a slow. The clone will also target players with frost icicles, and frost tornadoes will spawn all over the map, so make sure to stay out of those. Fei Lian during this phase will be weak to flame, so make sure to hit the boss, not the clone, with 120 flame hits to quickly dispel the slow and allow the DPS teammates to start doing damage. For those paying attention at this point, you have already exhausted all 3 of your weapon slots for a vault, frost, and physical weapon. How are you going to do 120 flame hits then? The answer is Type V armor. You heard it right. Type V armor is back in the meta. It is the perfect relic to do long-range, fast-hitting flame damage, and the cooldown perfectly aligns with the boss's phase changes. So for all those non-DPS players doing mechanics for the team, activating Type V armor right when the phase changes will make quick work of the curse. And that's it to all the boss mechanics, as it will then cycle back to pillar phase and repeat the pattern of pillars, flame clone, vault clone, and frost clone. A team that perfectly does all the mechanics should be within Fiona's execute threshold after 2 complete cycles right after the second frost phase ends. Finally, an ideal team just going for clears should have the below setup. One main tank to draw the boss's aggro and keep your team safe, using either Mimi or Saki to taunt. Lan would also be ideal for her team-wide damage reduction. The other weapon could be Asuka for more survivability, or one of the other fast-hitting elemental weapons, whichever your team is more lacking. At least 2 mechanics doers. These players only exist to complete the raid's mechanics and nothing else. Perfect for the free-to-play on the team, these players should equip Samir, Shiro, and Hilda as the bare minimum, with Type V armor as their relic, and only hit the pillars and boss with corresponding weak element weapons. For supports, there should be at least 1 support, preferably 2, to cover all the bases of executing, buffing, and healing. There should be at least 1 Icarus in Benediction for the initial chunk, and 1 3-star Fiona in Benediction for the 12% execute. Weapons like Nemesis for heals, Brevi for the AoE passive heal, Zero for the discharge invincibility, and Lyra for the shield and fast physical hits on the boss would all be nice to have on the supports. Finally, the rest of your team should be DPS players just playing the regular best DPS comps and relics. Try to leave this role to the best geared players, as obviously some damage is needed to kill the clones within 40 seconds. Towards the end of the fight, DPS players can also hit the boss, when its damage reduction stacks are lowered to potentially speed up the raid, and skip a phase or 2 for a faster time and better leaderboard rankings. Some closing tips. The tank should try and aggro the boss away from the center, so the DPS players can safely kill the clone in the center. DPS players, not currently on the boss's weakness, please pay attention to the phase changes and move to the center when the clone spawns. Don't just unga bunga DPS the boss, and tab target the clone instead. The clone dying deals way more damage to the boss than you ever will, so focus on the mechanics. Since the vault clone phase is the hardest phase, DPS teammates, if on physical, should also help out with the 120 hits using Yemya autos or 9 hold attacks to speed up the mechanics. Besides the flame clone phase, where you want to stick together as a team for ease of AoE heals to tank through the burn dot, you always want to spread out and avoid stacking with other players. Paying attention to your surroundings and keeping yourself alive is top priority in this raid. Also, for DPS players that have lots of setup or burst in the rotation, try to align your burst window to exactly when the clone's curse is dispelled, as doing the bulk of your damage to the clone when the damage reduction is high is a huge waste of DPS. That's it for the Fei Lian raid. Hopefully this guide is helpful to you, and if you find any other tricks to speedrun the raid, make sure to leave a comment and let everyone know. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to the randoms in your group to get them educated and save yourself some mauling. Finally, here's my DPS POV where we cleared with the free-to-play snipers on CN. Enjoy.